Hey everybody, welcome to today's edition of the Daily Market Commentary. It is a Friday, and a beautiful Friday that it was on this, well, I guess it wasn't so beautiful with the weather outside, depending on where you were, though maybe it was. But we definitely got some breakout moves. So for those of you that are new to the channel, what we do, we try to do this every day as the market ends. We look at the market, we look and see what happened today and how could we have benefited from it, or what could we have done in those trades. And we leave the same lines on at all times so that you can really see the evolution of a plan as it occurs. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the S&P. Now, for those of you that are, once again, new to the channel, a blue line means it's a breakout trade. And so we got a really nice breakout today in the S&P. Many of you still may be in this position. If you are in this position, great. Many of you may have closed it just because you want to get out before the weekend, but we got our breakout long on the S&P. Hip, hip, hooray. As far as what I'm looking at right now, however, we've got to remove this line. Where's my selling point? It doesn't exist. There's no reason to sell above current price. If I want to go to a smaller time period, and on Monday or Sunday evening, we get a little bit of a pullback, right in here at about this 2570 range, this area here. And primarily I'm looking at this 2570 range because when I come all the way back, and I'm coming all the way back to this area here where we had this this whole area, which was a little bit of consolidation. We dropped through, we hit it again, we came down, we hit it again, we came down, we hit it again, we came down, we came up, we went sideways, and boom, like a rocket ship, came in like a wrecking ball, as Miley Cyrus might say. Although don't get me in trouble with royalty rights. I'm not making any money off this thing. All right. So here is a little bit of a level that could be a good chance to get back in. Now, mind you, this is a small time frame level. So I'm going to change my colors here. Whenever I do a smaller time frame level, I always use a different color because you've got lower probabilities when you use smaller time periods. That's just a statement of fact. So lower probabilities, lower time periods. So you may or may not be willing to get in this thing if we do indeed get a pullback back into this range. So today, back to the hourly time period, you got about a, from our breakout position, and our breakout position was right here, you picked up about 15 S&P points if you held on for the whole ride. So let's just round it. Let's call it 10 S&P points. So that's $500 a contract, which is pretty good. Now let's go look at another market, which is the Nasdaq. In the Nasdaq, we had a little small time frame short set up right in here, and that small time frame short, take a look at it. Price came into this area and moved down, was unable to hold, and then at the London Open, boom, blew right through, and then continued to be like Forrest Gump and just keep running and rallied up. But here's what I want to say. Now, I will tell you, I wasn't awake. I didn't take this one. I wasn't in front of it. I didn't have it set up. But even if you did, so let's say you did. Let's say you had an entry at 60.99 and a stop at 61.05. So that's 6 points worth of risk. The 6 points that you lose on this is nowhere near as big of a deal as what you've just made on the other. So, this is what trading is, right? It's letting our winners make more than our losers. And even if we're 1-1, we take a small loss. So as it is now, I'm going to remove this as an area. I am, however, going to look at this area back in here as a potential retest retest area. If I go back to the 15-minute time period, we'll see that right about here where we had that area which was acting as that ceiling, we did indeed have a little bit of consolidation there and a little bit more right here, right around the market open period. So you may get a little chance to get back in right there. So I'm gonna draw some lines right here, but I'm gonna color them purple because once again, it's found on the smaller time period. Smaller time period does give me a few advantages because it definitely does reduce my overall exposure. So there's our S&P and Nasdaq levels, a couple of opportunities if you indeed want to get long coming back into there. Crude oil, I feel really good about the fact that yesterday we talked about that we were coming near a level, but I wasn't willing to short it. Thank goodness for that. as the markets continue to rally up in crude oil. Now we're going to start looking at, is there a place for a potential reversal? And somewhere up in here, there could be. We're getting back to that psychological number of about $55 a barrel. And that $55 a barrel number is something to pay attention to, as we've seen oil kind of hover between 55 and 45 for, I guess it's been over a year. But, you know, in the midst of all that, on the smaller time frame, you might actually have, you know, especially after today's rally up, this little area right in here. I'm not going to put any lines around it yet, but just keep an eye on this area right here. It's possible that on Sunday evening, we could get a little bit of a drop and come back into this 53.75 range and give you a chance to get long again right through here. So not putting a line on the chart. I don't feel that strongly about it yet, but it is something to keep on your radar screen. Gold. So we took the short on gold, breaking down out of this level here. We talked yesterday about taking your money off the table. I'm going to remove this line now as we are kind of coming back up into it because I don't want it to get us confused as another opportunity. As gold is rallying, I think that there could be a good little reversal point right here, and that really lines up with the reversal point that I just spoke about in crude oil. So this little area here where, and if you think about this long wick, that means that we went up and then came back down, and then we're able to kind of go sideways before moving up. Now that sideways means that there was some equilibrium between supply and demand, some equilibrium between support and resistance, and then price moved away from that region. As price has moved away from that region, there could still be some pent-up support in that range where if price returns, you may be willing to get long. Let's go take a look at our bonds and our currency markets. So bonds and currency markets, we are coming close to our bond level on our bond rally today. We do still have this level up in here at the 125 region. I want to see how price arrives at this, but I'm going to keep it on the charts as is. The Aussie, the breakdown still occurs, still there. I'm going to remove this line since it doesn't mean too much to us any longer. But we are pulling back into an area that could be a good little reversal point right in through here. So keep an eye on that as a potential reversal. I'm gonna put this in here, but I'm gonna put it as a dashed line. And the reason I'm gonna put it as a dashed line, let me explain why, is that now dashed line, remember, means that we get short after it comes in, and we don't wait. We only get short if it comes back out. The reason I'm the dashed line is simply because of this area of consolidation right in here, right? This would be we might even consider that a buying opportunity if the bigger picture wasn't telling us to keep price going down. All right. The euro is just continuing to fall, and I'm just feeling like I missed something. And I was speaking to, a really, really good guy today, just kind of via Twitter, and we talked about this is the time, in my mind, to trade breakouts on these things. And you got a little breakout today off this little level. You might get a retest back into here. I'm not in love with this area. I'm actually not going to put a line on it because I'm not in love with this area for a couple of reasons. One being it's a little bit low. I'd want to see a deeper retracement, a bigger pullback. I'd like to see if there's something on a smaller time period right about in here. And the reason I like this time period right in here is simply because of all this, right? All this noise that we had back here is still going to be a psychological area as price moves up. And as price does indeed move up, I like this area here a bit better because this acts as a psychological area because of this old support acting as new resistance, combined with the fact that we had a little bit of equilibrium and price action kind of in that range. The Canadian dollar, big rally up in the Canadian dollar today, which if we move this to the daily chart, you'll see that this is the area where we had talked about a potential reversal in the Canadian dollar. And so I think that we could have a slightly bullish run in the Canadian dollar up to about the 789 area. So kind of keep that one on your radar screen for the next couple of days. Last but certainly not least, as we head into the weekend, nat gas. So I left the nat gas lines on here. And today in our nat gas, we got a little bit of this move up on the gap way up out of here. Now, yesterday we had talked about possibly using this as a short out of here, and this is essentially worst case scenario, right? You gap up through here while that market is closed, and so in doing so, that one's going to cause a pretty big hit if indeed you were short on that thing right through there. So that one, sometimes those things are just unfortunately going to sting you, and that's a good example of it doing so. So hopefully you weren't in too deep on that one. Let me know if that was something that kind of hit you on that. I really did not anticipate that big of a jump higher, and so that one kind of stings a little bit. Great British Pound still moving down off of our confirmation entry level. Should have taken some profits off the table on this one. I'm going to remove these lines, by the way, because those are no longer valid going forward. And looking at the future, if you go to a smaller time period, there's going to be some noise in here that you might be interested in. I will tell you there's nothing in here that I love. So I'm going to hold off on anything in the Great British Pound. And then last and certainly not least is going to be the Japanese yen. Got to make sure I save my setup here. And on the yen, we had looked at a breakout level. I got that blue line, so that tells me we had a breakout. And our breakout's not until below this area in here, this 86.98 level. If I go down to the 1 hour and look inside the hourly chart, none of these areas here are strong candidates for a high probability reversal. Now, it doesn't mean you can't take an advantage of the short to make money on the way down to here. You just have to go to a smaller time period and get in, and once you've got a confirmed downward trend. So that's what we're looking at the yen. So what we're looking at for next week, I don't think there's any reason, especially in the S&P, to think that we're not going to continue to march along. I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback. Don't know if we're going to get it or not. There's a few more big earnings coming next week, so make sure that you are keeping yourself safe around earnings plays. So until next week, everybody, same bat time, same bat channel. Hope you have a great day and a great weekend, and you stay safe with your family. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.